Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for another one of your questions about work. And for those of you who are here for the first time, I'm Roy Bahat. I'm a startup investor in the future of work. Oh, I'm going to fix our format. There we go. You get the studio live. And I'm here with Gadi Shamia, who Gadi is the founder of a company in which we've been fortunate to invest. And for folks who watch, we love having CEOs we've backed. That company is called Replicant, and I can let him tell you more about what it does using AI around voice and customer service. But he also led Talkdesk as its COO through from seed to unicorn, and had some harrowing experiences that he managed in very different from the norm ways that I'll let him tell you about in a second. So Gadi, thank you for being here. And the question today is, I'm hearing all this stuff about the economy going sideways. I'm leading and being asked to do layoffs, or feel I might need to do layoffs. Can I avoid that? How can I avoid it? Should I avoid it? Would just love any wisdom that you have.
Hey, Roy. Really happy to be here. So you want to know about Replicant a little bit. So I wouldn't turn into a long Replicant pitch.
Okay, you get a chance for your PSA here.
Yeah, the PSA is we automate tier 1 customer service calls and chat and messaging for the customer service teams in companies. So instead of all calls hitting agents, we take some of the calls, we completely resolve them, and then we pass the remaining of them to the agents, so the agents can focus on high impact, complicated, emotional calls versus on the more mundane, repetitive ones. So contact center automation in one line.
Awesome. And so, as customers, we all have those experiences. How many people, by the way, work at Replicant now?
Just we're 120, 125.
Yeah, so a sizable company with real people. And so you've been through downturns before. You've been through these kind of periods where there's this pressure. How should CEOs think about avoiding or doing layoffs?
Yeah, and I don't know if the answer is avoiding. So I'll start with kind of my credentials in a way. Is I'm old enough to be in the tech industry through now the third major recession. The first one was, of course, the dot-com bust. The second was in 2008, was the mortgages, and the crisis came after that. And then this is the third one that we're entering for the last year and a half now, come up with a lot of the same reasons. So I had a chance to see it from different viewpoints. Interesting enough, I was a founder or co-founder during the first one. I was in a VC at Stone Ventures during the second one, and I'm back as a founder in the third one. So it's really
you've seen different lenses. And by the way, the number of people who are still active as leaders, most people who are active in the dot-com wave one, just haven't had the energy to continue. So our partner Karen also, shut down Webvan and was a VC through it, and that was the OG tech recession. So you definitely have cred as far as
not sure how I still have the energy, but sometimes I do, and I don't think of anything better to do. But I think my headline will be not how to avoid as much as how to not follow a prescription and think that there's only one option. And I'll start by saying, just look at what's happening today. Salesforce just announced 10% layoffs today, and 10% seems to be this magic number. And this blows my mind. It's impossible that all companies hire 10% too many people, or 14 in the extreme cases. Yet I haven't seen any layoff that is different between like 10 to 14.
Maybe Twitter is an exception, but yes.
Yeah, but Twitter is an exception for just about everything.
Every reason, totally agreed.
We'll put it aside. It's a whole different experiment. So if this is the case, it means that even great companies and great entrepreneurs like Mark Benioff are following some kind of a prescription, which may not be the right for a startup. And I'm assuming a lot of your audience here coming from smaller startups that have much more flexibility, and they have much less of the public eye on exactly how much money they spend, and they need to do what's right for the company versus what's right for the
I think it's a healthy assumption. I mean, there is this way in which I feel like for visible CEOs, public or private, there's almost like handing a scalp to people, of demonstrating optically that, everybody else is responsible. So let's set that consideration aside.
So let's forget the optics and let me dive into a story, because I think that it may not work for any one of your companies, but it worked for us in the first crisis. So I co-founded a company in the ERP space back in Israel in 1996. And we had some success and we expanded. We've done it all the time where there are no VCs. We actually did not have a single dollar of venture money. We had some money from just private wealthy investors, what we call today angels. They were the first angels that just had some extra money and they want to invest it. And as even though our product was not web product, it was an ERP solution. When the market imploded, nobody wanted to continue investing in us, and we needed to do something because we were about to run out of cash. But in a weird way, we had a business. It generated significant amount of money in this time, but it was losing about 20%. So we need to either find additional funding or cut costs.
So just to make sure I'm tracking the story, your cost cut target in that case was about ensuring continued survival, literally in the sense of getting the cost number below the revenue number.
Yes, it was exactly that. We need to break even and maybe generate a little bit of so we need to cut about 22%. And everybody around us was doing layoffs. Every single company in Israel at the time were doing layoffs. I'm sure it was the same thing in the US. And we felt uncomfortable with that for two reasons. One is that we actually did not want to let people go. The team was really tight. We worked together we're 75, 78 people at the time. We worked together for a while. We felt miserable for the people who will be out in the job market without any prospects of finding a different job at this specific time. That was one part. The second part was that we just believe in the company, and we thought that the company is gonna see its breakthrough, and we didn't want to lose great people. Now, there's a third reason. In order to cut 20% of your costs, you need to let go about 30% of the team. Reason is you never let go of people in like a nice cut all the way from the highest salary.
Always
to the
bottom weighted.
Exactly, which means you have to fire about 30% or let go of about 30% of the people to get a 20% cut. Lastly, you stuck with managers that all of a sudden then don't have a big team anymore, and they may not be even as efficient. So what are you going to do about them? Do you really need this person to run support when a support team is now half its size?
Yeah, one of the things I hear you saying is that a team is not numbers. It's not like marbles in a jar. It's an interconnected system where you take out X% of the marbles, it affects lots of other things.
Yeah, exactly. So we said, what will be actually going to work? And we said, easy way to get 20% salary cut is to cut everybody's salaries in 20%. But we felt a lot to ask. So we went back to some selected people and say, hey, if we're going to ask for that, but offer everybody to work 4 days a week, so they can take the fifth day to do consulting work. We have a lot of customers that wanted some extra services. You can go ahead and charge directly to customers, do whatever you want. Would you agree to that? And people are like, are you going to do it too? We said, sure. We're going to be the first one to do it. And they said yes. And we went to the entire company and said, here's why we do it. We gave them exactly the same solutions. And we said, we understand if people will decide to leave, but if you decide, we'll be very sad, but we give you a better option here. And we make you a promise. When we are able to do that, we're going to pay you back. This is just a loan from everyone, even though you only are asked to work 4 days a week. Long story short, everybody stayed. I think one person left during probably the 8 months after this change. Second, most people work 5 days a week. And sometime we'll take the fourth day, but most people decide to work 5 days a week. I, of course, work 5 days a week, but most people follow suit, and there was no issue with limited capacity. The third, right about 8 months after, we got acquired by SAP, and part of the negotiated agreement with SAP, we 2x or 3x, and I don't remember it was 2x or 3x. Everything we took away, we paid back 3x, so it was a very high interest, which was separate from the acquisition that, most of it went to the shareholders. We want to make sure that we live up to our commitment, and SAP was happy to oblige.
How did the acquirer feel about that? Because happy to oblige is kind of like, well, I'm willing to pay X for a company. You tell me if you want some percentage of X to be in this form. So did it feel like, were they impressed? Like, I could imagine an acquirer being like, great, you just decide how you want to allocate the money. Or I could imagine an acquirer saying, wow, that's an exceptional kind of commitment of a team, and we want to reward that so that they can remain with us in that way. How did they relate to it?
It was such a no-brainer. They said it's we respect it. It makes a lot of sense, and we want to retain the team because they were trying to build an SMB practice at SAP.
So they wanted the people happy.
They want everybody happy, and this was such a small Just think about it, by the way, it's 20% salary over 8 months for a company. It's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not in the millions.
How many human beings were we talking about at that point?
75 people.
Yeah. So one thing I was going to ask you about. So first of all, what I hear in that is design your plan for the needs of what you can do. Think it through on the basis of the specific facts, as opposed to follow the norms. The other thing that I'm curious about is, how did the work patterns change? You said most people work 5 days a week. A lot of companies are now doing this 4-day-a-week experiment, just generally setting aside layoffs just because they think they're not getting a fall off in productivity. How did you manage how people actually worked? Like Fridays were only half the people there, or like that kind of thing.
We actually said Friday. You can choose Friday or Thursday, if I remember correctly. We gave people a choice because also we want to keep support. We want to keep somebody engineering.
Right, sure.
And if you want a different day, you can just talk about it. But again, at the end, it was some people that just didn't want to take extra work took Friday to have a longer weekend. I think people wanted the extra work, took other days of the week. But again, this was a minority.
Most people just kind of loan the company the money, basically.
Yeah, and got it back. It was nice interest. And I think the other lesson from here is you need to know your team. We knew that it's not going to work with every team. It's not going to work in every stage. But we have enough intimacy that was built over 5 years before that, that we're able to ask and that we're going to get real feedback if it's not going to work for people. So I'm not suggesting this is another prescription, just to be very clear. I think it's just a way to look at the problem differently and do something that no one else did. In your company, you may say, hey, what if I pick some of those highest earners and take advantage of the fact that my 498 valuation is lower now, and we can grant really cheap stock and ask people if they want to convert some of their salary to more stocks. That's another creative solution that doesn't require one of those generic 10% layoffs. So there's more than one solution, but it's really hard to prescribe it, which is why when I hear all this, like, you have to do this, you have to cut that, I say, okay, but you don't run your company based on Roy's or whatever VC prescription. Otherwise, you're not really a good founder. Why would you run your cost cutting based on some kind of a prescription you got?
100% agreed. By the way, as a person who literally, the thing is called "This is not advice," because I don't want anybody to follow the prescription. I want people to think for themselves and just share the experience. One of the things that I think, to just be empathetic to why people do it, is when you have these moments that are singular, like they come up once or twice, maybe just once in the life of a company, and they're clearly existential threats. Like the thing is enormous in its impact. Those are the exact moments where the reward to thinking for yourself is the highest, but also where the temptation to default to the norms is the highest, because you don't know, you've never done a layoff before. Yeah. You don't know what you're doing. And so I'm just expressing empathy for why people tend to do that, even though I agree with you, it's totally, by definition, anytime you're doing something enormous for your company, you should be thinking it through in a way that is natural to the specific rhythm of, why did you convince people to join your company? What kind of people are they? Where are they in their lives? What's their history been with the company? What's their personal relationship like with the leadership? All those things feel like factors. And so I just love you expanding the imaginative database that people have in their head, where it might not even, oh, that's a thing you could do. It didn't even occur to me you could do that. Mm-hmm. So thank you. Anything else before we wrap?
No, I think that there was a good, quick discussion.
No,
the other not advice is try to avoid layoffs as much as you can by not hiring too much, and I think that's that's another important part. And if you look at some of the layoffs recently, Salesforce said, "Oh, we hired too many people." Nothing really changed in the macroeconomy that should have forced Salesforce to lay off people. I totally understand a company like Shopify that hired too much because the market really changed during 2020, 2021, and then it's really adjusted for SMB and e-commerce. That's one area where it's unavoidable. And I think totally. That the long-term lesson next time around when people start hiring again and feeling more comfortable with cash is there is also a way to not hire just because you have the cash in the bank, but because you really need it. And again, in this case, prevention is an ounce
No,
of
look,
prevention.
we are big believers in raise as much money as you can, spend as little as you need, because it's easier to manage a team at high quality. When it's small, you can often move faster, and then you don't have to correct, which creates its own amount of work. So
yeah, I'll
on
tell
the
you
same
another
page.
quick story, Roy. And this is actually a story of a layoff. One of my good friends, a really phenomenal entrepreneur that I totally respect, called me. It was last June, and she said, "Hey, I'm about to lay off half my company, and here's why." She has the money. She had the money in the bank, but she just felt there's two main activities, and one is holding her back. And her investor said, "No, don't. Why would you lay off people? You have this team you built." And she decided to literally lay off half the company because this one activity did not work for the company and slowed it down. And 6 months later, their revenue is 2x what it was half the team. So sometimes it is the right solution when you bet on two things as an entrepreneur, and one worked and the other didn't, or did not work as well. Because it's really easy when it completely fails to shut it down. In her case, one was great and the other was okay.
Okay. Well, that's the power of focus, is like the best thing you left on the cutting room floor. And sometimes it's like, well, yeah, okay isn't good enough. And look, we're also leaving out a conversation we've had before here on This Is Not Advice about how to, when you do need to fire people, how to do it with humanity and skill, because that's obviously also very important, short and long term. But I think for a future time, you're welcome back anytime to talk about how do I decide how fast I should hire, is a really, for both for CEO, but also at a team level. If I've got a team of 3 people, do I need a team of 5 or do I need a team of 4? Those are actually really important questions that add up to pretty significant things. So, but we'll wrap for now. And, again, it's not advice, because we're not saying a prescription for what anybody should do. We're giving them our experiences, and yours in this case, so they can make their own decisions. So thank you for that, Gadi.
Yeah, it was an awesome conversation, Roy. Thank you.
To be continued. I'll see you soon somewhere where it's sunnier than it is in San Francisco.
No, it's not that sunny right here now.
Yeah, well, still better than here.